That may have been a little bit too campy. Hey, what's up? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Today I'm coming at you with some new album recommendations to check out from a variety of genres. I'm going to be giving little snippets of these bands and of these albums. If you guys end up enjoying this video, drop a like and leave a comment down below of the albums that you have been enjoying, and of course, if you're new here, drop a subscribe. A fun grouping of records for you guys, starting off with Boundaries, Death is Little More, and this has been recommended a shit ton since it's released, and for metalcore fans, you can kinda understand where that hype is coming from. This is a Connecticut metalcore band, and it's very much leaning into sort of that New England metalcore style. It's very late 90s and 2000s, but not the kind of sceney emo sort of metalcore music, more so the As I Lay Dying strain of stuff, also with some surprising beatdown influence. But alongside sort of the New England beatdown influence as well as the As I Lay Dying metalcore-ism, I'm also seeing a lot of that 2010s weird, zany, heavy metalcore influence coming from that a band like Code Orange plays, or if you want a better example, some of the erratic and manic guitar playing that is just frazzled out across this entire thing, definitely in line with like a Vein or a Loathe. And finally, just to sort of round out the for fans of section of this specific recommendation, if you're a fan of the hanging ambience and atmosphere of Currents, I think this could be up your alley. So if all of that wrapped up into a ball sounds like something you'd be interested in, I really suggest checking this record out. The only thing is I wish there was maybe a little bit more diversity in the vocal department, but at the end of the day, it's still one of the best metalcore albums I've heard this year for good reason, and I think it's definitely living up to the hype, so don't let that deter you. Oh lord. Benighted is back with Ekbom. Is that how you pronounce it? I have been the #1 stan of Benighted across the internet for the hottest minute. I shout them out anytime I get the chance to, and whenever I talk about Death Grind, I say that Asylum Cave is handily one of the best Death Grind records of the 2010s. Bless up, if you want to check out an amazing Death Grind record, go check that one out as well. This thing is like the best breed of technical Death Grind a la Cattle Decapitation, but with Benighted's own little spin on it, lots of pig squeals across this whole thing, tons of different brutal vocal techniques. It is so tightly woven together that Benighted, dare I say, are getting to that Cattle Decapitation level of just having something so finely woven together that you can't help but just get caught up in the labyrinth of complex riffs, but not so complex that you can't just enjoy it as a standalone album and have to dissect every little minute thing. This is a very enjoyable track listing with a lot of catchiness, and they don't overstay their welcome. Benighted have never had an issue with that, so a fantastically well-produced Death Grind record with one of the best vocalists in the entire game. I love Julian Tricon. I am happy that I got the chance to interview him years back, and maybe this record will give me a reason to do it again. Parasitic Embodiment with Wrought in Eternity is a record that came out of complete left field and is shaping up to be one of my favorite slam adjacent records that I've heard this year. It's pretty straightforward, so don't go into it expecting anything like super like genre defining or wheel reinventing, but it is a really well produced slam record with a lot of grinding riffs, a lot of buzzsaw percussion, and just an overall great production that binds it all together. So if you've been wanting a nice sort of middle ground slam record that's not too well produced or too raw, check this one out. Do I even need to put Imminence as the black here? We all knew this record was going to kick ass. Of course it kicks ass. Eddie Berg's vocals are still some of the freshest and coolest in metalcore currently, and that's saying something because he doesn't necessarily do anything in his range that we haven't heard from hundreds of other metalcore bands, but it's the proficiency that he performs them in, and it's just the timbre and the ferocity. He really can balance out a lot of different things in his range, and I think he does so successfully. Imminence are one of those bands that just have that unique knack to them that very few other bands can successfully do in their niche. I consider Imminence kind of like what Rivers of Nile are to death metal and progressive death metal. It's like you can't really compare many bands to Imminence because they're in such firmly a lane of their own that it's kind of impossible to do so. I will say that some of the deep cuts on this record are not some of the stronger Imminence tracks, and I think they've kind of found their formula, found their pattern, and they're playing to that and playing to the appeal of them to try to, I don't want to necessarily say give fan service to people people that got into them because of their gimmicks, if you want to put that in air quotes, but I think that sometimes their moments feel a little bit more phoned in than they have in the past. But with that being said, Imminence are still kicking ass, and you aren't going to hear many metalcore records like this, period. Oh buddy, if you like some epic black metal, this is coming from Spain, and y'all should know that side of Europe really does come out with some awesome, epic, theatrical, cinematic black metal. This record fits the bill perfectly. It's maybe not as like hugely produced and gargantuan as a Caladan Brood, and it's maybe not as original or awe-inspiring as a Summoning, but it scratches a specific itch. And to add on to that, you are also getting some dungeon synth influences into this, and you know, I'm just a sucker for black metal that's infused with dark ambient and dungeon synth and sort of has that epic styling to it, because when a special record comes around, you really feel it, and this is a record that I think scratches that itch. So if that is up your alley, check it out. You know what is arguably shaping up to be my favorite record on this entire list that is an underground record that came out of nowhere? Deterioration with Paranoia and Violence. I truly did not think my favorite record of this list was going to be a power violence record, but don't be like fooled into thinking that this is like a Nails type of power violence record. This is like if you took gore grind vocals and the insulation of some of the best death grind bands with the sheer intensity and throttling playing of some of the most shrill and brittle grindcore bands. You're getting pretty close to the formula here, and this thing is just so insulated and impenetrable, and I can't get enough of the mix of this thing. Grinding riffs, constant throttling drums, and a production style that I can only describe as suffocating. If Relentless is your style, check this thing out. It is punishment. It is complete ear assault, but I personally like it, and it's been sticking with me a surprising amount, and I could really see this being one of my favorite, like, more brutal records of the year. Next up, Flegma with Dead Angels Abyss. This is pretty cool. This is kind of like if you took Possessed and mixed it with like some early Motorhead. You're getting a lot of Motorhead influence on this, as well as early death metal. It has like the galloping nature of early heavy metal with a lot of headbang worthy riffs, a lot of grooves that you'll get caught up in, but that sort of early death metal, thrash metal-ism that I really like. So if you're someone that likes 80s death metal as well as some mixture of heavy metal and thrash metal into a death metal formula, I think you would like this. So I may be coming from a place of complete blindness with this next pick, but And All We Forget by Unborn Generation is next. This record is a D-beat grindcore sort of crust-infused grind record coming from a Finnish band that has been doing this for quite some time, and I've never personally heard of them, but this is their 7th studio-length album with a surprisingly well-executed and well-balanced assortment of genres being infused with one another, all grind-adjacent, of course, with a surprisingly understated production style that I personally really enjoyed, and I don't think it's like so laden with distortion and feedback and noise that if grind isn't typically your thing, it's going to be the most off-putting or anything like that. And obviously this may be one of those things where Unborn Generation, like, this ranks low on the tier list. If someone that maybe knows more about them could let me know. I definitely want to dig into their back catalog, but this Finnish band's been kicking it for a while, and I'm glad this is my first introduction, and maybe it can be yours as well. The next record is one that is solely because of you guys. Alpha Wolf with Half Living Things. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I'm not a big Alpha Wolf fan, and that's coming from someone who grew up with nu metal, who grew up with metalcore. With that being said, this record did kind of sell me on the hype of why they are getting the type of attention that they are. This is a great revival of that nu metal angst and aggression and riff writing combined with metalcore music, and I do like the production. It is kind of like overblown and compressed, and it has that loudness aesthetic to it. I personally really understand why a lot of people are getting this hype, and if you like the nu metalcore movement or just nu metal and you grew up with that at all, this is going to send you down memory lane and elicit a ton of nostalgia for you. Is it my favorite record to release this year? It's definitely not close to that, but I am giving you guys my recommendation personally because I can acknowledge and admire where they're coming from and how good of a record this is and how well put together it is. Shout out to the Alpha Wolf fans, and thank you for 13,000 subscribers. Tip of the hat to you guys. I really appreciate it. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.